Welcome to another edition of AV Rant. I'm Tom Andry, Associate Editor of Audioholics, and I'm here with
Rob H. This is AV Rant. It's your home theater and AV questions answered. And this is a good week to come watch our YouTube version because Tom and I both have new logos in the bottom next to our names. You have to see it in person because it's contrasty and legible and awesome. And that's all thanks to Ash, who
Yay, Ash.
is going to be added to listeners of the week for sure because
Forever.
it's
For at least the next
it's
couple
great.
of weeks while we.
That's right. As long as we continue to be excited about it.
That's right. That's how that works. Make us excited, and we will make you listener of the week. We will be doing the Creative Sound Blaster Roar 2. I didn't know there was a 1, but there's a 2.
Yeah.
We will be doing that review. It's right here.
Gotcha.
Yeah, there's a speaker. Talk about things I like, things I don't like, and all the weird stuff it does, because it does some weird stuff, man. We will talk about it in just a second. But before we do that, this is AV Rant, the podcast where we do answer your AV and home theater questions. To get your questions answered, all you have to do is ask. You can email us at tom@avrant.com, rob@avrant.com, or question@avrant.com. And if you email all three, that's your best bet. You can go to the website, www.avrant.com, leave a comment there, or just see what we've posted in the past. Someone complained, I think Ash complained that some of our older episodes were looping or something.
Yeah, like they were only playing up to the first 30 or 40 seconds, and then they started over.
I tested a couple of them, and they all worked for me. So I don't know what to tell you, dude. If anybody else is having that problem, let me know. But if you're way back at 390, that's where you said it was, around 390.
That's right.
Then, yeah, I'm not so sure that. Well, anyway, just ask the question again if you hear something on there that you really want to answer. We'll answer it again. It's 390. That's what, 66 episodes ago. Anyhow, so you can also go to facebook.com/avrantpodcast. That's all one word, and communicate with us there. We're very active over there. And Twitter, Rob is @FirstReflect. I'm @avrant_Tom, and our producer Austin Pond is @Austin Pond. He has his own podcast, which is called We Watch Movies. It is a podcast about lighting fixtures, oddly enough. So there you go. Something to look forward to there.
Specifically, not smart home lighting fixtures.
No,
regular,
just a regular
flip
one.
A switch, not even dimmable.
Have you ever been to like Home Depot and you see that big wall? I mean, maybe not you. I don't know if they have the Canadian version of Home Depot, where they have that wall of lighting. I mean, it's daunting.
Ours is usually an aisle. Well, like half an aisle. We don't get a full aisle.
Oh, no, we have a full aisle. I got more than one aisle in mine. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Lots. But anyways, today we are going to be reviewing, before we get to our listeners of the week and all that stuff, let's go ahead and do the review of the Creative Sound Blaster Roar 2 Bluetooth speaker. If you're watching the video, you will be able to see it. If not, then you can look at a picture of it. It is square, rectangle. Whatever. On the back, there are two little strips, rubber strips, so you can set it down. It's really meant to be placed back down, facing up, I think. And there's two little strips that you can add yourself to the bottom. They give you those. They completely fell out onto the floor. I almost lost them. I didn't realize that. There's 4 buttons on the front: power, volume up and down, and then take your phone call. There's a couple of indicator lights here and there. On top, there are all sorts of switches and buttons, the most important of which is there's one for USB mass storage. If you're going to play something from the USB input or the mass storage, it takes one of those little micro whatever cards that you can put in your phones these days.
Micro SD card.
I have one of those. The problem with those cards is that they're really small, and I lost it, so I don't know where it is. It's someplace in this house, so I tried to find it to test this thing out, and I couldn't do it. It's because I couldn't find it because it was too small.
You've had a doggy in the house too. That's every possibility of them swallowing up a thing that small.
Eating it. So the cool thing is, there's a lot of cool things about this. First of all, Sound Blaster or Sound Blaster Roar, whatever. You put those words together, you expect something like that to be loud. This thing's ridiculously loud. It is really loud. All right, so it says it has 5 speakers. I'm not sure if that's true. I busted open to find out. You can clearly see there's some sort of tweeter mid-range thingy right here in the center, and then the sides. These both are like, one of them's going to be a driver, and one of them's going to be a passive radiator, something along those lines. So I think they're counting both of these. So these things go in and out on the sides, and then so when you power it on, I'll see if you can hear this. Nope.
The suspense.
There it goes. So there's a little there. You might hear a little noise there, and then
That was
there's a
very
Terra.
quiet.
There's a Terra base. It's not that loud. That part. This Terra base button, which gives you. It's got two settings. Well, three settings. Off is one. The next one is Terra base, which is sort of like Odyssey Dynamic EQ, but for just the bass. So what it does is it's supposed to, as you make it quieter, keeps that odd, what you expect the bass to sound like, what you're hearing once the bass is sounding like, it keeps that even. And then there's a Terra, there's a something, I think I call it Roar 2 or something like that.
Why Terra? Why
Shut up.
That name?
Don't
is it Terra? I
think it's Tera. Yeah.
Terra.
Terra base on.
All right, see, it makes a sound every time you say that. Tera base, and if you press it again,
raw on.
That's a roar, but she says raw. She says raw on, which sounds strangely sexual when she says it like that. But anyways, so I found that I did like having the little bass boost going. I usually don't like that sort of stuff, but with this thing, and then it tells you yourself. The problem is that it pauses, and then the little lady's got to say something to you in a really bad accent, and then the music comes back, which means it's really hard to do a quick A/B. You can't just press the button; it doesn't A/B. Now, weirdness, the cool kind of weirdness thingy here is that now you can plug it in to the wall. It has a wall charger. It has a little power cord, a little 12-volt thing. But you can also plug in the micro USB thing to when like whatever you use to charge your phone, you can charge this with that as well.
Oh, okay.
So you can charge the one, which I was like, that's kind of nice. And there's a USB plug in here, which will charge your phone as you are using it. And you can plug that part. I don't know. No, I think it's the micro USB. You can plug that one into your computer, and then this thing, you can use this as a speaker, or because it's got this little micro USB SD card, whatever it's called, the micro SD card. You can use this as like a drive and access it from your computer as well. Now, if you have your micro SD card in here, which I do not, there's a record function, which allows you to record just about anything that goes on through this thing. So there's a microphone in it, obviously.
Yeah.
So you can record yourself saying things. You can record the music that's currently being played through it. You can record phone calls as they're going on, if you would like to do that, which is creepy as well.
Could be useful.
Could be. And there's also like a bedtime mode you can kind of set in. It takes like a button press combination, which plays it for like 30 minutes and it fades off and it turns itself off. So they're suggesting that you could their suggestion was that you could read a story to this thing and then put it in your kid's bedroom and have it.
I see.
Read the story to the
Go
child.
into sleep mode.
Just questionable utility on that one. It's got an NFC pairing, so it's got a little part right here where you can UFC pair it. It's really heavy, considering with the size of it, it's even heavier than it feels like it should be. But it is ridiculously loud. The things I like about it is I like the Terra bass mode, believe it or not. I like how loud it is because it's nice to have something that you can turn up and drown out your children. I like that you
while it talks to them for you.
Yeah, that's right. You can place it in a number of different ways. I like the face down. I was hoping the Bluetooth, like somehow someone would figure out how to make Bluetooth work a little bit better than it does. It doesn't. It's always like it always fades out. Like if I take this to the bathroom, so I can when I'm taking a shower or whatever, and I leave my phone charging in the other room, it'll start cutting in and out after a few seconds. It just doesn't work that well. So they didn't do anything better with Bluetooth than anybody else has done. It sounds fine. Sounds good. It's a little off, when you get off axis from it, the treble fades out and all that. But that sounds okay for a Bluetooth speaker. I'm pleased with the sound. It certainly is loud, which is what it promised. The things I don't like is that it's got like this little bank of inputs right here. There's nothing that covers that. There's no thing that covers this, and there's just too much stuff that things could fall into here, and I want there to be a cover for that. On top of it, there's no really good way to grab this thing without accidentally turning it off. Okay, or telling it that you've got a phone call, because you can't grab it. You can't grab it from the sides because the little things are, if it's playing, especially the little bass things are going in and out.
Are they moving?
Yeah. So I usually have it sitting up like this, and I go to grab it. When I do, my fingers go over the controls here, and I either hit the make a phone call button, or I hit the turn it off button, which is the first thing I turned it off initially. The very first time I ever grabbed it, I turned it off. The thing that I've noticed about this thing, it is got to be the best. When I say, the range of the Bluetooth isn't any better, this thing always connects to my phone every time. I don't have to think about it. Like every other Bluetooth anything, it's always giving me problems.
That probably means it has like 0 security. So if you have your phone attached to it, it's probably really easy for someone to hack into your phone through it.
That might be true. I don't know about that, but I actually take. I like my wife's car's got crappy stereo in there, so I take this with me when I'm in the car. And if I have any problems like connecting to the network, I'll like power cycle my phone, and usually that just you could kiss Bluetooth goodbye. By the time it comes back around, the device has gone on to do bigger and better things. I don't know what they do. I know that every other Bluetooth speaker, if you lose Bluetooth connection and you don't get it back within like 5 to 10 seconds, you're going to have to press a little button, put it into pairing mode again. This you never do. I've put this in pairing mode once since I've gotten it, and it's always reconnected. Yes, it's always reconnected to my phone without any problems, no matter what I've done.
Cool.
Which is really, really, really helpful and handy because that irritates me more than anything.
So I missed if you said if it has a battery, and if so, how long
it is. It's currently on the battery. I mean, I'm doing it just made
right.
So the battery itself, it's got these 3 little lines here, little lights, which tell you how much the battery is charged. It's fully charged right now. I unplugged it and then just let it sort of do whatever I was doing with it. It power cycles itself down if you're not Bluetooth connected to it after a while.
Okay.
So it does have a power saving mode, but it lasted me the better part of a week, maybe a little bit over a week.
Oh wow!
Of me using it a couple hours here, a couple hours there, ignoring it for a day or two. Not just playing constantly. I wasn't going to do that because my wife was
stress test.
Yeah, not interested, but like of normal use, it was pretty good. One thing I didn't like about this is that if it's on while you're plugging while you're charging it.
Okay.
The lights always indicate that it's charging, so it never gets full. Like at some point, it should be full, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just running off the mains power there. It never does that, so you don't know until you unplug it that it's fully charged. And even then, you're like, well, is it fully charged, or is it just over 75% charged? Or whatever, 66.6% charged, or whatever the light indicator means. So I would like it to get to full and be at full. But yeah, the microphone in it that I've used it for Bluetooth calls, it's been pretty good. So I'd recommend this. I have no idea how much it costs. I guess I should have figured that out before I think it's about a couple $100. I'll look it up while you're talking about.
It is one of those, one of those details.
Yeah, one would think. So if you're looking for something loud and really easy to connect to with your phone, and I'm glad because I felt really bad for BenQ when I didn't like their other one that much. But this one gets really, really loud, especially compared to like the BenQ can't even touch this as far as loudness. I think the BenQ sounds a little bit better, but then again, you have to sit your head right in front of the dang thing. So
the price is listed at $229.
I was close.
I'm sure you can probably find that for
$199. It's out there.
I'm sure.
Find it. I think this would probably be worth it. It's certainly a heck of a lot better than a lot of those other things that I've seen. Like the Braven, the one that I tested, that Andrew Gash did the review on. That one, it's nice because it's rugged and you can drop it in a tub and not worry about it. But it doesn't sound nearly as good as this one does. So
okay. Amazon has it for $169.99. So
there you go.
Well below.
They also sent me this carrying case, which has. Okay. These are like Velcro straps that you put on the sides here. Look at that, because you don't know it's Velcro
soundy.
So it's long. There's a long version of the strap and a short version of the strap. And no, it's not that there's like a little thing that you can do to make it shorter. No, you either get this length or you get like the hand carry length, which is stupid.
Oh, I see.
And also, this is assuming that you are only taking the device and not any of the chargers or cables, because it has no room for it. And it's just foam.
Take it to the beach where sand can get into the ports that you can't cover.
That you can't cover. Yeah, so I don't know where you're supposed to take this thing and this thing. I honestly don't know. I guess I should put it in, but it's too much of a hassle. I just throw it underneath the seat of the car. So,
okay.
Anyways, that's
there you go. Thumbs up overall.
Thumbs up. I agree. I do like it. I do. It's my new go-to Bluetooth speaker. So there you go. So let's do our listeners of the week. To be a listener of the week, you have to in some way support the podcast. You can do that as Tim, Pieter, Joseph, and Troy did by going to www.avrant.com and clicking on the Buy Us a Cup of Coffee link and giving us a PayPal donation. Thank you very much, Tim, Pieter, Joseph, and Troy.
Thank you, gentlemen. That is very cool. That's 2 weeks in a row. We've had a good amount of donations.
I know. It's very nice. It's coming at a good time, too. You can also support the podcast in a number of different ways. Jefferson bought a Marantz AV7702 Mark II, and he emailed Marantz and Best Buy and just about everybody else. anybody that may have touched that thing, he emailed them all and said, I heard about this. I bought this because of AV Rant. So that was good.
I am certain that Best Buy is over the moon. They are so keenly tuned in to podcast recommendations over at Best Buy. I'm certain of it.
Absolutely sure that those advertising dollars are going to come.
The money hats are just coming rolling in.
They're like, who's this AV Rant we've been hearing about? We sold a receiver because of them. No, it's honestly, hey, I don't care.
No, that's cool.
You've done something. You've done something. Now, Scott on Twitter, which when he first did, I was like, whatever, dude. That's kind of phoning it in. But he went on Twitter and like tagged Golden Ear and tagged both of us and said that he bought his SuperSat speakers based on our recommendation. And I was like, Twitter, really? And then Golden Ear retweeted it. So I was like, all right, that counts then.
Oh yeah,
that totally counts.
Actually, Golden Ear is quite active on Twitter.
I didn't know that.
So that Oppo is too. So tweeting them definitely works. They like to give the shout outs.
Yes, and if anybody out there is got some video editing skills and would like to help us put together a video to go with a Patreon page, which is I'm been wanting to do. All it would take is, I think, that you and I recording some messages individually and then having them splice that together with some video for maybe YouTube or some stuff. I don't know, graphics of some sort. If anybody's good at that and would like to donate that to the podcast, I'll make you listener of the week for at least a couple of weeks while we talk about it. Every time we talk about it, you might be listener of the forever, because that's what kind of happens. Right. Like, yeah, you get a race car, you put a sticker on it, your name gets mentioned all the dang time. That might be one of those things. So, so thank you, Jefferson and Scott, for your support of the podcast as well.
Yes, thank you guys.
Now, we do have a lot of news that's going on right now. Like I said, we just did the review of this. The Jansen speakers, I'm still trying to get in touch with Santa's to get some stands for those things. So they're still in the box. I have not opened those things up. I'm sorry, David. I will get to them. I promise. Monoprice has launched some new products over at Cedia, their premium audio line, which has a number of different things, including a bunch of stuff I don't care about, plus a retro Bluetooth stereo hybrid tube amp system, which has a tube amp that you can connect to via Bluetooth and two little speakers that go with it. And I was like, and they must have sent me a half a dozen emails saying, hey, we haven't heard back from you. Are you interested in reviewing this? I was like, what? Just stop saying, what? Hey, is that tubes? Yeah, I'll take the tube thing. So they're sending me the tube thing. I can't wait. I'm so excited.
It's $200. It's interesting that they're calling this their premium line, because these are not premium prices compared to every other brand in existence, because of course they are mono price. So their whole thing is, hey, we have, pretty good stuff at very low prices. So yeah, I was interested. They have a new 5.1 satellite subwoofer speaker package, replacing the one that was basically a rip-off of the Energy Take 5 speakers that they got sued over, and they made a few changes, and then people didn't like them as much, so now they have a new one, but it's even cheaper. It's only $200 for the entire 5-speaker and 8-inch subwoofer package there now. So, if you want 5 speakers and a sub for as little money as humanly possible, that's got to be about it. I haven't seen it at $200.
Can we really call it? I want to go back to this creative thing, because it does say that on their little thing, they says something about how it is a portable with a built-in subwoofer. I'm like, stop calling it that. It's not a subwoofer. You're not fooling anybody. So when they say that they've got a subwoofer, that is air quotes.
It is a separate box that does not play above 120 hertz, so it's that.
It is a bass module. Maybe it plays from 120 to about 65.
65. Yeah.
Technically, so that it'll work.
It's below the, if you want to call them woofers, they're more like, I guess they're woofers. You'd have to call the little driver in the speaker a woofer. So there you go.
So yeah, they've got some couple bookshelf speakers that are Bluetooth as well, I think, and then just some regular bookshelf speakers, which are ridiculously cheap. So I'm sure that people are going to be telling us about those in the future. If you try them out, let us know. I will be trying out their little speakers that come with the Bluetooth system, and we'll see. I maybe hook them up to something else. I mean,
Right, to
it
see how
could
the-
be. I might take their speakers and put them as my surround backs, and take these big old speakers behind me and put them as
Yeah,
as
do a
like little
comparison
tube amp. Yeah,
head to head.
and ahead.
See what all that second order harmonic distortion is about, because
Yeah, man.
people love them tubes.
I am excited about the tubes. All right, and then I guess you said from Greg over on Facebook.
That's right.
You got turned on, but Plex has overhauled their PC software and has added 4K.
Yeah, so the news here is that the Plex media server, which is the thing that actually organizes all of your content, that has not changed. So that's still going to be running on your NAS or on your PC that you let run all the time. You still got your Plex server going, but they're now calling it their Plex media player software. So this is if you had a home theater PC that was connected to your display, and that's your playback device. Before, they had their whole 10-foot interface, and you couldn't even use a mouse with it, and it was limited to 1080p, of course, because that's all there was at the time. So they've redone it now, and they've actually completely dropped it. The original Plex was based on the original XBMC, and then they went off and did their own thing off of it. Well, now they've completely started from scratch. Basically, it's all open source, so people can play with it as they please. But yeah, it's a new interface, new look, 4K capabilities. You can use a mouse with it now if you want to. So yeah, kind of cool that Plex continues to move on. And what they've done is they've made it look a lot more like the apps that you'll find on Xbox One and PlayStation 4 and the new like Apple TV when they bring out their app there. So they're consolidating the look of Plex.
Yay.
Yep. They're promising more codec support, so that's always a good thing.
Yeah. Did you see the Jessica Jones trailer?
I did.
I am very excited about Jessica Jones.
I know.
Luke Cage is in it. And then the doctor is going to be the bad guy.
Uh-huh.
To be so awesome. Anyways, a little bit excited about that. People are like, did you see the new Star Wars trailer? I'm like, eh. Like, did you see Jessica Jones? I'm like, yeah, I saw Jessica Jones. When's that coming out?
Supergirl tonight.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, Jessica Jones is November 20th. All the episodes, all at once, because Netflix is like, here's everything. Take it, watch it all now.
Yes. I am a fan of that. All right. Comments. We got some comments from last week.
Mm-hmm.
Quite a few, actually, which is nice. Get some feedback from people who have heard us say something and either agree or dissent. Jackson dissents. He says he's been a custom installer for many years and says, I can say with confidence, this is all a quote here, I can say with confidence that you should not buy a Yamaha Blu-ray player under any circumstances.
Wow.
Yamaha does not manufacture these units. They are subbed out to an unknown manufacturer, and they are full of bugs, have to be power cycled frequently, and the menus are difficult to follow and full of grammatical errors. Oppo all the way for the extra $100. So there you go. Right. Whoever that dude was that wanted us to tell him. Hey, to me, I feel like if you should, yeah, honestly, yeah, you're probably right, Jackson. I'm not just gonna say probably, but my parents have had nothing but problems buying like off-the-shelf Blu-ray players, and the thing is you can buy 3 or 4 of them before you get to the price of the Oppo, but it might take 3 or 4 of them till you get one that doesn't stink. So
it seems like the LG Blu-ray players on the cheap end have been pretty good. Yeah. Mainly because they include more apps than anybody else. So people are like, I don't even know if this thing plays Blu-rays, but it has lots of apps, so I use those. And then Oppo on the high end.
My parents have a Samsung, and sometimes the apps won't show up.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not really sure what's up. I don't know what's going on with that. They keep asking me to come over there fix it, and then they say, "Well, hook up the Chromecast again." I'm like, "Listen, if I hook up the Chromecast, number one, you'll have to control it from your phone."
Yes.
It's like, oh well, that's fine. I'm like, you say that, but I don't think you really mean that.
That's a phone call waiting to happen.
Yes. So Darren Fong, this is the guy who created that program where it was out of your head, the out of your head thing, software thing. Anyways, we said that it was out of his head, and we thought that everybody needed to have the same size head as Darren, which who knows what size he could have. Elephantine head for all we know. Anyways, he says his presets are on his HRTF head-related transfer function. That many of those presets were measured using other people's heads, not just his.
There are some that are his, so we weren't 100% wrong. There are some that are his.
Yeah, but so users can try all 27 choices, and that's even in the trial mode, which is free. I think you get 30 days or something like that, or something.
Might be 14.
or something like that.
I don't know how many it is.
You get days, some limited
Yes.
number before you have to buy the thing. So you've got, you'll find your own head in there someplace, hopefully. So yay for that.
Yeah, I mean, really the way to test this is see if you can find something that has like a rock solid center image when you listen to it in stereo, or even better, something that pans sounds across the front, left to right. Because if you listen to that and it convincingly gives you what seems like a center speaker in front of you rather than the sound, going into the middle of your head like headphones usually do. If you find one of the presets does that for you, then that's the one to use, because that is definitely the hardest thing to do, is get that center channel to work.
All right, and last week, Ron was asking us about 4K TVs and stuff. And anyways, him and his wife, Britt, asked about the 4K TVs last week and whether they should go with the 55 or 65 inch from 11 feet away. We said like 80.
At a minimum. More like 125 if you can do it.
So anyways, they went to a local big box store that had a Sony 4K set up right beside a Sony 1080p set up. They made sure to stand 11 feet away, and neither of them could see a difference from the resolution alone. So they wanted to. Ron says he really wanted to, but now he's convinced to just wait for the high dynamic range, the HDR stuff to come out.
Yep.
You can still go bigger though. You didn't address
yes.
the elephant in the room, which is the fact that your TV is way too small, no matter what your wife says.
Yeah, that's a waiting for a projector, because I kind of doubt you have the $120,000 to $130,000 for the 120-inch Vizio reference series. That's a little out of most of our price ranges.
And if
but,
you don't, if you do have that kind of money, let us know. We'll be happy to help you spend it on better things than that. Now, let's get to the questions from last week. We have Ash, who provided the artwork that we talked about last week, and now he's given us updated artwork with increased contrast, and the lightning bolts look cooler too. I think they look a little bit cooler, so that's exciting. Anyways, he recently replaced his Onkyo 5.1 in a home theater in a box system with a Marantz PM6005.
That is an integrated stereo amp.
Right.
That's what that is.
So it's a stereo amp. It's not a multi-channel amplifier. It's not a receiver. It's an integrated amp. Yeah. Which means it just, in this case, it's 2-channel, and it doesn't have any doesn't have a radio tuner.
That's right. It has some inputs and a volume dial and
tone controls.
Yeah.
Anyways, he's got a pair of Q Acoustics 3020 speakers for music listening, and he later added a Marantz SR5009, which is a stereo receiver.
And a surround sound receiver.
Surround sound, yeah. Did I say stereo? Sorry.
You did.
And a Q Acoustics 3070 subwoofer and a 3090C center, and I don't know what any of these things are anyway.
They are very much like well known in the UK. Q Acoustics. They are very not well known in North America. So as soon as I saw Q Acoustics, I'm like, he's in Britain, and then I saw his pictures, and I'm like, yep, those are UK plugs on his wall.
Yeah.
So.
Anyways, he's still using those Onkyo speakers they already had for the surrounds for movies. With the Marantz receiver, the surround sound receiver being 7.1, you couldn't help but add back surrounds. We're going to talk about that in just a second. But this and having the sofa too close to the left wall necessitated removing the coffee table, the dining table, and chairs, and all other furniture besides the sofa and the TV stand.
All right. Your room got turned into a theater.
So is this in the dining room? Are you listening? Okay, anyways, I don't care. So he's got so all the dining chairs other than the furniture besides the sofa and the TV stand. This and having a sloped ceiling has turned the room into quite an echo chamber. So, questions. First of all, suggestions. You should get rid of the surround backs. Let's just start. Can we start there?
All the trouble he went to.
I know. He's sitting like a foot and a half from him, and they're basically still within line of sight of the surrounds. I mean, there's no way those can be doing anything but disrupting your sounds. You can push them together, but then they're going to be firing right in the back of your head.
Yeah.
And you're going to have to get rid of your surround backs.
They could definitely be a distraction. No, I don't disagree. They if you hear them, they'll probably be distractingly audible, and the chance that they're actually like filling in a hole behind you is very, very low, because you could just have your regular 4th and 5th side surround speakers slightly behind you, and given that you've got a wall quite close behind your seat, it would do the job in 5.1. It really could.
So sorry, Let's start with there.
Hmm.
Anyways, his questions now. Will adding GIC acoustic panels help fix the fact that his room is an echo chamber?
Yes.
If so, how many should he? How many and how should they be placed? He lives
Hmm.
in an apartment, so some restrictions apply. Yes, these will definitely help.
Yes.
Clearly, you're going to need some. Do I have it? Did he give us a picture of his room? He did, right?
Yep, he's got some pictures, all right.
Hold on a second. I'm gonna have to open that while you're
It's gonna
talking.
be slow. It's Tom's
No,
computer.
no, I already opened it. So yes, I can
Oh.
see it. Uh,
Oh, he's definitely in the UK because he's got the silver version of the Marantz.
oh yeah, sexy. Yeah, just cheat the surrounds back a little bit, off to the back of your couch, and then you're done with that. So let's
Right.
just start with that. You can definitely put. I'm trying to figure out how close his TV speakers are to the side walls. It doesn't look like they're hugely close, so maybe I'm reading this.
No, there's quite a bit of distance from the front speakers to his sidewalls for sure.
Yeah, so side reflections might not be as much of an issue. You're definitely going to want to
Yeah.
put something behind your head, and I would probably put something
Mhm.
behind the speakers as well.
And I would
Front speakers.
try to get something on the sloped part of the ceiling, which is over to the left of his seats.
Yeah,
Because that, I mean, the problem with a sloped ceiling is that you get odd, difficult to control, difficult to predict reflections. So it's not that they're inherently stronger or something like that. It's just that because you've got this angled ceiling, it's difficult to control and predict what those reflections are going to be. So absorbing them tends to mitigate that problem. So
yeah.
I would absorb on those sloped parts.
That being said, you can always call GIC or email them or
Yes.
whatever, and they do their advice stuff. So you could do that as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, GIC tends to base their recommendation somewhat on your budget. Because, I mean, if you want to go nuts in a small room, you can essentially, like we've said before, never have too much bass trapping. I mean, yes, there is such a thing as bass trapping to the point that you can't physically fit in the room anymore, but acoustically, you can basically never have too much bass trapping. So if your budget is unlimited, they might be recommending a ton of bass traps to you. But like Tom said, the main thing is going to be behind your head, the sloped part of the wall. You could also treat the front wall. That might help with
That's what I said,
some
behind the front speakers too.
yeah, behind the front speakers, yeah. So those would be the places to start. I wouldn't worry tremendously about diffusion at this point because you're going to have enough reflection in that room that keeping the high treble energy in the room isn't going to be your problem. It does look like the floor is carpeted, so that's good.
Yeah,
dealing
you
with
could
quite
bass
that.
trap, but at this point you don't need to because you don't really have a subwoofer.
Yeah, I don't think resonance of deep bass in this room is going to be your largest problem at this point. So
Right.
yeah,
Right now,
yeah,
you're just
front
getting a lot
front
of,
and back wall and the sloped parts.
you're
That's
getting
where
a
it
lot
gets
of
most
echo
absorption.
from your high end stuff. That's messing
right.
things up. Plus, you have surround backs and surrounds that are fighting each other to try to get sounds to you. So
Mhm.
that's the second one. Secondly, he would like to use the subwoofer for music listening, but the PM 6005, that's the integrated amp, not the
Mhm.
surround receiver, has no subwoofer output. He could use the SR5009, but he likes the sound of the PM for music because of the easy access to tone controls.
Right, which are right on the front with little dials that you can adjust manually right there. Don't have to go into any sort of menu.
Yeah.
That's
Is there some way to use zone 2 of the receiver to output to the amplifier and have zone 1 drive the sub only?
now let's see
No,
here.
wait a second. You could do that with record out, couldn't you?
Well, I was trying to think. Now the SR5009 does have pre-outs, so one way to do things would be to use your front, left, and right pre-outs to feed a stereo input on the PM6005.
Yes.
Now, when you're doing that, normally, if you're watching a movie, say, you'd basically want that PM6005 to just be acting as a dumb amplifier at that
So
point.
you would turn the volume knob of the reference and you would leave it there.
And you would also hit the source direct button
Yes.
on the PM6005, which bypasses any processing that the 6005 itself might do, and essentially just turns it into a dumb amplifier that does have its own volume.
But that would
knob,
kill the
so
tone
that's-
controls, which is what he wants it for.
But I was saying when he's watching movies,
When
and he
watching
just
movie,
wants, because that keeps everything physically connected without having to, switch a bunch of wires just to switch between
This is
surround
what you
sound
want.
and
You want to
stereo.
go directly from the receiver to the integrated amp, and then the amplifier, the integrated amp to your
Speakers.
your front, left, and
Right.
right speakers. So it's in line.
Yeah.
All right.
Now he's saying, could he also take the Zone 2 outputs from the SR5009? Now, why would he even need to? Is the
Well, if he
question.
did that, it bypasses the subwoofer, which kills the whole thing, anyways. Because it's not
Yeah,
going to
because
you're not
I
going
mean
to
the
use a
thing,
sub. You
if he's
can't use
talking
the
about
sub.
using, yeah, if he's talking about using a zone 2, then that means he's taking all his stereo sources and plugging them into the SR5009,
Right.
right? Which would mean he could just continue using the pre-outs, use the bass management in the 5009, set it to stereo mode because the 5009 is not driving the front, left, and right speakers. And the PM6005 would only be receiving an already base managed signal. So the only thing it's amplifying is 80 hertz and above, sending it out to your front, left, and right. The subwoofer's active. You're done.
Yeah.
That
That's what you want to do.
don't. Yeah,
You
that's
wanna
all
do
you have
that.
to do.
So you're going to set your volume control on your PM whatever, probably
Mhm.
reference volume. It's going to be putting out max whatever, and you use the volume on the S0 whatever it is, the
5009.
stereo
Yeah.
one,
The
a
surround one.
surround one. Dang it! I got stereo in my head.
Gonna
The
screw it up so
surround
bad.
one, you're going to use the
Yeah.
volume knob on that. So with the tone controls, you want the PM, the integrated amp, to pass everything through unadulterated when it's in
When it's surround
when it's
mode, when
surround
you're
mode.
watching a movie, say, because you don't, yeah, it doesn't sound like he's using the tone controls on the integrated amp
No,
for a movie.
no,
So you'd hit source direct, and that would take care of that.
right. And then from there, when you switch to doing stereo stuff,
Yeah,
then you wouldn't take your PM out of
source direct
source
mode.
direct mode.
Yeah,
You could probably there might be a direct mode in there which still uses the tone controls. There may be some sort of, well, I mean, he
it's
can't
mostly
just set
just
everything to zero on the. We just set everything on that thing to zero. You don't have to go source direct. You could just set everything
right.
on the PM to zero and then
But
use
like,
tone
say he's
controls.
adjusted the tone controls for what he likes for stereo,
Right.
then it's as simple as hitting source direct when it's surround sound and then
Yeah.
turning source direct off when it's 2-channel stereo. So what's different here is that in his case, this is actually pretty easy. You're just going to be using the PM6005 as the amplifier for your front, left, and right speakers. That means
Yes.
no matter what you're doing, you will turn on that PM6005.
Has to be on.
And then you're plugging all of your sources into the SR5009.
Yes.
And when it's music, you just set it to stereo mode. It's already bass managing. That means your subwoofer is already active and it's sending the signal to the PM6005 from the pre-outs, and the 6005 is doing all the amplification. Okay, so that's done in this case. But most people, when they have a separate integrated amp for stereo, what they're wanting to do is plug their stereo-only sources directly into the integrated amp so that they don't have to turn on their surround sound receiver when they're listening to only 2-channel. That doesn't seem to be the case here, but I want to address for folks who would be doing it otherwise, because that's kind of the more common thing. So in that case, where if you're plugging all your stereo only sources into an integrated amp and then the integrated amp has no bass management and has no subwoofer output, it means the only thing it can ever send out of the speaker outputs is a full range signal.
Right.
At that point, what you need is a subwoofer that has speaker wire inputs, binding posts on the back of it. Now, there used to be more commonly subwoofers that had speaker binding posts both in and out. And on the output ones, they actually put a high pass filter. But it's darn hard to find that now. Almost all of the subwoofers these days, if they have speaker binding posts, they only have inputs.
It's
Or
just
if
more
they,
money they have to spend on the inputs
yeah,
and stuff
well,
back there.
yeah, if there's inputs and outputs, it's often just a pass through. So it's still a full range signal going out. So, for example, in HSU's lineup, only the STF2, their smallest one, has inputs and outputs, but the outputs are just a pass through. There's no high pass filter on there. All of their other current subs have speaker wire inputs, but only inputs, no outputs. Over at Outlaw, which their subs are designed by HSU, their Ultra 12X or Ultra X12 that they have right now, it has inputs and outputs, but it's just a pass through. In SVS's lineup, only the SB1000 and PB1000 have speaker binding posts of any kind. All of their other subwoofers from the 2000 series on up don't even accept speaker wire as a potential input. So it's a little tricky. Rhythmic, they have ones that have speaker wire inputs, but that's it, just inputs. So what you're basically doing in most cases is you end up having to run your front, left, and right speakers full range because there isn't much of a choice. And then you're using the internal crossover, it's in fact a low pass filter in the subwoofer to blend it in, because most speakers don't play all the way down to 20 hertz. So at some point they're rolling off. Maybe they play down to 60 hertz and then they start to roll off. So if you set the low pass filter inside of your subwoofer to somewhere around 60 or 70 hertz, they'll probably blend together okay, just as far as where the speaker drops off and the subwoofer comes in. But that doesn't take into account room and placement and all the things we always talk about when it comes to deep bass. That's one of the things going way back when people are like, well, how low do your speakers play? Just turn your subwoofer's low pass filter to there. It's like, nah, there's more to it than that. So yeah. For most people, that's the way they're going to have to come at it. But here, you don't, so you're lucky.
You are lucky. All right. We already talked about this last one.
Yes.
So we don't talk about that.
That's right.
All right. Troy is planning a home theater in his basement, which measures 10 by 17 by 7.5. So, yeah, it's about the size of my room. A little bit smaller. He was thinking of putting his 92-inch projection screen on the 10-foot wall, but this won't leave much space between the front speakers and the wall. You ain't lying, Haas. I know. I got an 80-inch screen, and I don't got a lot of room either, and it stinks.
Yeah, assuming it has a normal, say 3.5-inch border around that screen, you basically have about 16 inches on either side of the screen.
And you can cheat the speakers forward a little bit, and then kind of angle them in or whatever, and you won't kill your line of sight. And you think about how the light's being projected. You've got some space there, but it may block some views of people who are sitting off to the side. But you know what? That's not you, so don't worry about it. So he was thinking about would it be better for audio quality to put the screen on the long wall instead? Well, it would be easier to get your speakers around your screen without there being that barrier right there.
But you'll end up with the back of your seat darn close to that back wall.
Yeah, you're going to get that wall. I personally, and I've obviously done it in this room, I personally don't think so. I would not go 10 feet across, have 10 feet, because you're basically going to be sitting on that back wall. You're not going to have any room back there. And not only that, you got to figure what your throw distance of your projector is too, and make sure that your projector can still put up a 92-inch image at that distance.
Yeah, because most projectors
be a foot, maybe 18 inches off the back wall. So you're looking at 8.5 feet.
Yeah, from lens to screen.
That's if your screen's on the actual wall across from it.
That's right.
I kind of don't think that. I think you should you don't really have much of an option here. You're gonna have to go with the long distance because you need the throw, number one, and you will be better off sonically if you have more space behind you to put stuff like surround back speakers.
Yeah,
and you don't have that wall right behind your head.
There should be enough space, assuming he's not going for like old school, extremely wide baffle front, speakers. If he's going with today's normal design where the speakers themselves are maybe 8 inches wide, he should still have enough room to put an acoustic panel basically right beside his front, left, and right speakers. I have that very first reflection off of that side wall. Should be able to still fit.
My room is like 11.5 feet across, and I got plenty. I'm 2.5. Well, I'm at least 2 feet off each wall, and I've got a 4-inch panel right there.
Yeah.
To catch that. So yeah, you'll have space to put something up there.
But I would recommend doing that. I would recommend having an absorption panel right beside your front, left, and right speakers.
Right. That's exactly what I did. I put one behind there too. So that's just me. There we go. Infinite Gary was watching the 5.1 mix of Mad Max Fury Road, which also has an Atmos mix. Sounds from the Atmos channels exist in the 5.1 mix, or are they only in the Atmos mix?
They exist in the 5.1 mix.
Do they really? I wouldn't have guessed that.
Yep. No, I mean, Atmos doesn't add sounds that don't exist in the 5.1 or the 7.1 mix. It just uses the metadata to move those sounds up into the overhead channels, overhead speakers, that you may or may not have. Because, there are some sounds that are supposed to be above you and behind you. And if you've set up a 5.1.2 and you don't have any speakers behind you, those sounds just go into the regular left and right surround speakers.
Yes, I was misunderstanding this question. I see what you're saying. All right. Second, he doesn't in general disagree with our comments last week about speakers improving after break-in. Doesn't in general disagree with our comment. That's a double negative, so he does agree. right?
Right.
Is that what he's saying?
He's not picking a fight with us.
Good. So basically, we said that speakers don't break in, your ears do. He doesn't. He's letting that one slide. But in the case of his Dyne Audio Confidence C2 signature speakers, he found that they started out sounding great. Then sometime later, they sounded not so great. Then even more time later, they sounded great again. What are our thoughts?
Well, I know a little bit about Gary because I've been talking to Gary for, quite a
Years
while now.
now?
I don't actually know how long it is.
It's been
But
a
anyway,
long time.
it's been, it's been a decent amount of time. And one of the things I know Gary likes to do is attempt to evaluate the quality of his sound equipment using regular content. Now, that does not make Gary weird in any way. That's what pretty much every reviewer in every magazine does. They're like, here's the music and the movies that I listen to, and I'm evaluating these speakers or amps or whatever based on that. But it throws in this massive variable, which is that unless you're watching the same thing every time, then how do you know that what changed wasn't the recording quality? Like, great
We've
speakers.
also know that Gary has a tendency to fill. So there's a chance that there was some fiddling going on as well during this time.
Like, the room was changing as he was listening because he was building his theater over a good amount of time.
That's true. That's true. So there's a lot of variables, and I guarantee you none of them have to do with whether or not the spider on those woofers in some way loosened up. None of that happened. So we can't tell you what happened, Gary. We can't. But we can tell you that the speakers did not change. We can tell you that. That did not happen.
Yeah.
At all. No matter what they say. That's just science. There's an article on Audioholics where the dude took these drivers and they were brand fresh out of the box, never been tested before, never been done anything before, and then measured them put them on, put some signal through them, measured them, and then broke them in for 50, 100, whatever, how many million hours, and measured them again, and no difference. You know, the biggest difference was in the first couple of milliseconds of playing a subwoofer driver. There was a slight difference, but I think that happened like every time that you started playing it too.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I mean, it's just
it heated up. Literally, the voice coil heated up. Probably
there was just some, from friction or something.
Yeah.
Oh, you'll have to read it, Gary. It's on Audioholics, but you'll have to read it. So, but it's not the drivers. It's just not. It's not. It's not the drivers. It's not the wood. It's not the cabinet. It's not the air inside that somehow got stale. That's not any of those things. It's just not. Now, third, he read an article describing how Dyne Audio does nearly all of their manufacturing in the house, including the magnets. Anyways, they have a neodymium mine apparently. Is it possible they make the most? Is it possible they make the most in-house of any speaker company? No, I don't think it's possible. But anyways, does that even matter? And was part of his question, and the answer to that one is, of course, so. Boston Acoustics. I've seen them. I've seen them make their own drivers, tweeters, woofers, the whole 9 yards. I've been in their company, and they make everything right there.
Yeah.
Now,
Focal in France.
Yeah.
They make everything. Well, I mean, other than maybe a transistor or a resistor or something like that. They make everything themselves. They make their own drivers. Interestingly, in this article, it mentions how some of Dyne Audio's tweeters they have made for them by another company in Germany. So they definitely do not make everything in-house or more than any other company in the world or something like that.
Right.
Paradigm certainly used to, although less so now. A lot of their they're like signature series they still make in-house, but a lot of their other stuff they're now making in China. Axiom in Canada, they build their own drivers and build their own cabinets. They're the OEM. Tweeters? They build their own.
Yep. Anywho, and does that matter? Absolutely not. I don't care where you make it or how it's made. It's more important. What is more important is the tolerances that you set, whether or not those tolerances are followed, and how you designed your speaker.
Yeah.
So design is the most important thing. After the design, it's making sure that from driver to driver, from cabinet to cabinet, that everything is got identical or nearly identical properties. That's the hardest part of outsourcing to China. Everybody has said that to me. I've talked to a number of manufacturers like RBH, and they're like, the number one thing is we have to go over there and keep an eye on them. Because if
Well, like
not,
look at SVS, right? Like they have people who live there
yeah.
for at least half a year, if not all year round, and they go to the factory every day to make sure that their Chinese supplier is building things to the specification. So
And that's the most
it's
important thing.
keeping on
So
top of it.
I mean, we everybody likes to badmouth China like it's some sort of terrible place, but the fact is they're just trying to make money like everybody else,
Yep.
and the cutting corners is cheaper than not cutting corners, and that happens right here in the good old U.S. of A. too.
Mm-hmm.
Don't tell me those people down at Diano, there's not somebody going, whatever, it's close enough. Just it's lunchtime. Can we go? Can we go? I'm so busy.
There were some very odd little. There were some very odd little asides in this article, like saying that there's this one particular part of the process of making their woofers, I think it was, where they're like, only women are capable of doing this part of the task. I was like, huh? And they're like, oh, they have to produce this tiny little drill hole and then feed this, really flimsy little wire through it. And they're like, we've only been able to train women to do this. No men can do it. I'm like, I'm pretty sure there's men with some like fine dexterity skills. That is a very weird thing to bring up. So an odd aside.
Just shut up.
That's like saying there's parts of the speaker that only men can make. I'm like, no, that is also equally untrue.
That's equally untrue. But how you look at it, it's misogynistic what you're saying right now. You should stop saying.
Strange.
Steve. Steve owns a business installing TVs and AV systems. So lots of his clients only want 3.1 systems and so want to use sound bars, despite his efforts to convince them otherwise. Often they already have receivers and subwoofers, so they don't need a soundbar to be self-powered. Are there any passive soundbars decent enough to recommend to his clients?
Yes.
There are. You have a long list here, but the one on this list that I have heard, or I may have heard the previous iteration of it, is the Paradigm one.
Okay.
I heard that at CEDIA, and it was damn impressive. That was a really good sounding soundbar. So I would say, and I'm not a huge Paradigm fan, but that thing blew my mind just a little bit.
It is, not surprisingly, the most expensive on this list at $1,500.
Yeah.
But that is 3 speakers all in one long thing.
It self-powered, though? It's not self-powered.
This one is not. They have a self-powered soundbar as well, which is very impressive, which I believe is $1,700. So they kind of took this one and added some amplifiers inside of it.
If I remember correctly, that thing played kind of ridiculously low, too. I mean, it really had quite a bit of
it's a pretty good size.
So
that one's on there. But yeah, I kind of put these, I think, in order of price in my list here. But Revel, they have their LCR8. It is essentially 3 of their on-wall 8 speakers, but all in one long tube, and that is passive. And they're pretty good sounding speakers. They don't play tremendously loud. They definitely don't play low. You have to cross them over at I would say at least 120, if not 150. But the sound quality on it, pretty decent. Golden Ear, they have their Super Cinema 3D array, which is basically 3 of their on-wall SuperSat speakers, all in one big long tube, passive. Good sounding, much like what I've mentioned about the other Golden Ear speakers. I like that you can put them in less than optimal placement, and they still sound clear, which is usually the thing people care about most is, can I hear the dialogue clearly? That's more important to most people than whether it measures ruler flat in its frequency response. So I like that one. And then Kef has a pretty good all 3-in-1 passive one as well.
I feel like I should have heard that one. I've clicked on it and now I'm waiting.
Yeah, that's their HTF 8003.
I feel like I should have heard that at some point.
Those are 4 that I know of. I'm certainly not saying that those are the only choices out there. If people know of other ones, feel free to contact us and let us know, or post it on Facebook. But at least there's a selection of ones I can say, yep, you get these. They sound pretty decent. None of them are what I would call cheap. They're all fairly
He's a custom
spendy.
installer, so surely he's not worried about cheap. Those platform ones are also tend to be pretty good, but they're more worried about being bassy. So if they've already got a subwoofer, then perhaps they're not so interested in that. I find those to be very convenient because you just put the TV on top of it, which is kind of nice.
Right.
Now, if you're doing clean installations and you're not, TVs on top of stands, then maybe that doesn't interest you as much. This is all stuff that's going on the wall. Then yeah, you certainly want one. I know that they already have receivers. There is advantages to having a receiver and still getting a self-powered bar, you know, because you're feeding
Mm.
that through the outputs, and you can still use stuff like Odyssey and everything else on it. Doesn't work quite
Only if
as
it's pre-outs from the
yeah. It would have
receiver.
to be pre-outs, but
Yeah.
it's self-powered, right?
Yeah.
So
I've never seen a self-powered soundbar that has a center channel input though. I've only seen
no,
them with
no.
left right.
Just tell them that it has. Just tell them they don't know. They're never gonna look, dude. Just I learned a new word today. You know the placebo effect? There's a nocebo effect,
Mm-hmm.
which is the you don't have it, but you think you do because you heard
I
about it.
see.
I'm gonna start using that, the nocebo, because placebo effect is well, anyways.
You were
So
given nothing, but you thought it was something.
that's
Yeah.
basically what this is, right? The nocebo effect. Oh yeah,
Okay.
you're not seeing it. That's what it is. It's got three. It's actually all five of them are back. Whatever, it doesn't matter. Just how many speakers do you want there to be me plugged in? That's how many I've got. Plus one, just in case. All right, John, over on Facebook. These are new questions for this week. We're now caught up from last week. Has a Dynamics AVRX 1000 AV receiver used for both home theater and 2.1 music listening. He believes it is the weakest part of the Chane in his audio system. He wants to know, would a separate power amp improve his music? Doesn't need more volume or power, but wonders if a higher end amp would improve the sound stage, clarity, etc., chocolatearity. His speakers are monitor audio silver models, and he sits 8 feet away from his front speakers.
Mm-hmm.
So we stand now. A higher end amp, does he mean? Okay, I'll keep reading. He was thinking of replacing his X1000 with the X4000, mainly because X4000 has pre-outs. He's also willing to consider a more expensive AV receiver, possibly from Rant, but only if the cost would be really worth it audibly. So is he looking for a new receiver or a new add-on amp? Because
yeah, it was two separate questions. Because I mean, the X1000 doesn't even have pre-outs, so there's no way there's no way he could add an external amplifier to the X1000. That's not even an option. But he's kind of asking, like, let's say he upgraded to the X4000.
Right.
Right now, I can say you'll probably hear a difference just going from the X1000 to the X4000 because the X4000 has Odyssey Multi-Q XT32.
Yes.
It's not really the amplifiers, it's the added processing that it can do. But you'll probably hear a difference there. Then, if you went from there and added, let's say, just a 2-channel amplifier, because he's mostly talking about when he's playing 2.1 music, he wants to get, even more enhanced detail. If you added an external amp to the X4000 and use that to drive your front, left, and right speakers, you're only sitting 8 feet away from monitor audio silvers, which they're not like the easiest speakers ever to drive, but they're certainly not difficult. I would tell you in a blind comparison, you would have a hell of a time telling apart the X4000 driving your front, left, right versus an external amp, unless there's something weird about that external amp.
Does the
acting as a tone control.
3000 also have multi-Q XT32?
No.
It doesn't. Okay.
No.
So
it starts at the 4000 series.
That's what I thought. It does have multi-Q XT, just not the 32.
That's right.
Yeah. I don't. First of all, let's say for the sake of argument here that you already had a receiver that had pre-outs. Say your X1000 had pre-outs.
Right.
And you were to ask me if I thought you would hear an audible difference by adding an amplifier, my answer would be no. Generally speaking, I don't really think that you don't have hard enough to drive speakers. I don't know why you think that I'm not entirely sure why you think it is that your receiver is the weak link.
Exactly. No, I think it's because
it's probably the least expensive thing.
Exactly. I think that's what it is.
I don't see why you're thinking that, but it's fine. It's fine that you think that you want to upgrade. I think we can get you something better. That's not an issue. And the X4000 right now is cheapest chip, so that's an easy thing to recommend anyways. But I don't really think that your X1000 is a really quote unquote weak link. If you do want better sound, we can get you that. But it's not because the amplifiers in the X1000 are weak. It's because there's extra processing that can be done that can make things sound better, which you can get with the X4000.
Now, I would also say that if what he wants to hear is a change in sound more than anything else, switching your speakers and keeping the X1000 will make a bigger difference than keeping your speakers and changing to the X4000. Now, as much as I would say the X4000 could give you an audible change in sound, changing your speakers will be a much larger change in sound if that's what you're really after.
If you're looking to upgrade because for better sound, like you might be looking for different speakers, which is fine as
Or
well.
acoustic treatments or setup, because
Yeah.
your room is a huge factor in what you hear. How things are set up in the room is a huge factor. So, it's coming back to this idea of what is the limiting factor? What is the thing that is actually holding the sound back from where you want it to be? It's probably either your speakers or your room or the way things are set up in the room. It's unlikely to be the amplifier driving them, especially when you're only 8 feet away, because that is just not enough distance for you to be exceeding the capabilities of any half decent amplifier.
Which every Denon has.
Yeah. Unless you're driving 1 ohm electrostats or something like that, then it could be.
You could, well, the X1000, 2 ohms, 3 ohms, 4 ohms, all the ohms less than 6 would be a red flag for me.
But the bottom line is, we
Look
think
around
your money is better spent on something other than an external amp.
Look around case. I think you're focusing in the wrong spot, John, and that's fine. All right.
Oh, yeah.
We all do that. And guess what? I want an external amplifier.
Mm-hmm.
I have no need for one, but I want one. I would like to have one. I'd always like to have one. I have one. It's in the box. I can't be chuffed to get it out of the box.
You'd go for one with tubes just because the tubes look cool.
I like the tubes.
It might sound worse. You wouldn't care. You're like, look at how freaking cool they are. They glow. They glow when they turn on.
They glow. How awesome is that? Shut up. Don't ruin it.
As for why you might buy something other than the X4000, it would really only be if you're looking further down the road in the future years and saying, maybe I would like to have HDCP 2.2 because maybe I'll have a 4K display at some point, or an HDR display. Maybe I will get an Atmos or a DTSX setup at some point. If those are at all in the cards, then that would be a reason to get something other than the X4000. But if you know for 100% sure you're not doing any of those things, it's awfully hard to beat the X4000 as far as just getting that particular feature set, which is the ability to drive as many as 9 speakers. It has 7 amps built in, but it can power 9 if you have an external amp, as that comes to it. And having multi-Q XT32 with sub EQ HT. So,
second, he seems to remember that you, Rob, you own amps.
I do,
of some kind. Is that correct? And if so, why? He didn't ask you what amps, though, I noticed. But go on. You're going to tell me.
I have ATI brand. I have an AT 1807. So that is a 180 watts times 7 channel. Yeah. So I have that. The reason I have it is because I drive 11 speakers at a time, and I have 13 in the room. Well, I'm not really going to keep 13. I just tried it out. But yeah, my receivers have 9 amps built into them. So there is no way to power 13 speakers with only 9 amps built in. I have to have an external amp. So that's why I have it. As to why I went with the ATI, I am an insane person, and I care just as much about what I don't hear as what I do hear. So when my system is sitting idle, or a scene goes very quiet in a movie, or there's an interstitial, where everything just goes to black and silence, I don't want to hear any hiss from my speakers. And I sit so darn close to my speakers, and they have ribbon tweeters that will produce any hiss in those amplifiers. I want them to be very quiet. So I got an ATI amplifier, which is very, very quiet when things are sitting idle. And I care far more about that than the watts, because I do not need them. I need like 0.5 of a watt per speaker with how small my theater is.
Yes, the focus here is that he's an insane person. You need to focus on that.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, he doesn't need the amps. He wants the amps, which is fine because he's a grown man. He can spend his money on whatever he wants, just like you can. If you'd like to buy an amp, the X4000, an external amp, and then write us and tell us that we're crazy because you heard it after your 100 hours of break-in, that's fine. Lastly, he wants to know our opinions on some of the more affordable amplifier brands: Emotiva, NAD, Outlaw, etc. NAD is in the affordable brands?
They're not as expensive as some.
Well, that narrows it down to is Rotel. Is Rotel in there too? Then I thought NAD and Rotel were both the same prices, right?
Yeah.
Emotiva
but I mean,
and Outlaw are inexpensive. All right,
right.
Those are the ones that are inexpensive. That NAD one does not count as inexpensive. What do
I
think
compared to a Mark Levinson or something like that?
Yes, it is.
That's
right.
A
Theta.
Theta.
They are great. There's nothing wrong with them. I like them.
I really like the Outlaws. The Outlaws are ATIs that are OEM'd by ATI and then sold under the Outlaw brand. I will also say if you want ATI directly, you can get them directly from them. They call them B stock, but they still give you a 7-year warranty. It's essentially their way of selling consumer direct without ticking off their distributors. So you can go to classicaudioparts.com and buy directly from ATI. So that's one other way, although the prices there are still more expensive than Outlaw. So
Yes.
Outlaw is the least expensive way to get an ATI amp.
Emotiva amps are very, very solid.
Yep. The Gen 2 improved on that noise floor thing that I personally care so much about. So it's very easy for us to recommend Emotiva and Outlaw. It's hard to be disappointed by them.
Very hard to be disappointed by Emotiva when you have a hard time buying an amp from them that doesn't cost more than $700. Everything's $700 on that's their website. How much is that? $700. How many channels do you get? Well, which one you want? Because one of them is $700 and 7 channels, and one of them $700 and 1 channel.
It's not entirely true, but it's pretty close.
It was that,
especially when the sales happened too.
Yeah, and they've been having a lot of sales lately. I don't know what that means for that company. Carl. When is the DTX X upgrade going to be released for the Denon X7200WA? Wasn't it supposed to be autumn of this year?
It was.
He did not wait for us to answer him. He wrote directly to Denon customer service and received a reply, which he CC'd us on. Due to some delay, it will unfortunately not be available into 2015. In 2015. So we will update the model successively starting from early next year, which is good for... I can't even say all the words I was going to say that Denon's saying to you, but imagine a finger in the air. You choose what mental image you want to, which finger is up in the air, and how hard Denon is pointing it at you.
Now, we heard from a little birdie, and we won't say who or where or whatever, but that basically that DTS X software, it is not ready. That is not Denon's fault at all. This is for everybody. It is DTS's fault. It is not ready. It's not going to be coming this year. Denon and Marantz have been on top of these new immersive audio formats pretty much more than any other brand. So if they're not getting it this year, nobody is. So it has been demoed. It's not like it's vaporware entirely. There are a grand total of 2 Blu-rays that you can buy. Well, not right now. One's coming out in early November. But there are 2 of them with DTS X soundtracks. So, we're all going to have to wait.
So does that mean you're not going to get your receiver that you sent in a million years ago? That's not happening? They're just
right. I should update people. Yeah, I tweeted out. What happened was I was doing it through a dealer in Ontario. I bought an X7200W, the one that did not have HDCP 2.2 or DTS X upgradability. And they said, well, before we ship it to you, because normally what they do is they ship me the thing, and then I would be responsible for shipping it to Denon all the way over in Buffalo, New York. And then Denon would do the upgrade, and then they'd send it back to me. They're like, look, we'll let you buy it. We'll ship it down to Denon. We'll get Denon to do the upgrade. Denon will send it back to us, and then we will ship it to you, and that will save on all the shipping costs because they'll basically cover all that since they ship back and forth between Denon all the time. I was like, great, that sounds good. I waited 3 months. Nothing happened. So I said, okay. I waited 3 months. I basically want an Atmos receiver back because I sold my X5200, which is coming up later. So I was like, can I just cancel my order, even though the thing is physically down with Denon right now? I'm like, can I cancel my order and get a Marantz SR7010 instead, which is the current flagship Marantz AV receiver, which pretty much has all the same features. They're like, yes, you can. Not only that, you can get it for the same price we were going to sell you this other unit for. I was like, okay, I'm done. So I have it. It's here. I don't have it hooked up yet, but it has arrived.
Hey, things in boxes.
Yes.
I've got that.
It's in a box.
Got stuff in boxes too. Yeah,
it doesn't have DTSX yet.
when I do my review of the Jansen speakers, I'm going to use the Denon. I have a universal Denon player, like a DVD, like the 3910. And I'm going to hook it up to the 2-channel RPA and RSP Emotiva gear that I've had sitting in boxes forever. I'm very excited. It's going to be like a nice little 2-channel setup. I'm going to put in the living room. My wife's going to hate me. I don't care.
Yep.
It's going to be awesome.
You're spreading out of your theater, Tom.
I am. And it's got the creep like the boss. All right, next. Are there any websites with regularly updated lists of DTS X Blu-ray releases? There's only 2. Anyways, it's not a list. It's barely a bullet point. The DTS websites. It's that you don't even need an Oxford comma to list them. There's just 2. Anyways, the DTS website and the digital bits are no help. Is there still only one DTSX release? No, there's two. 100%
Well,
more than how many you think.
there is still only one that you can buy right this second. There's
Oh.
American Ultra is coming in November. Let me see when it's coming out here.
What was that movie
November
about?
24th.
Was that the one where somebody was reprogrammed or something? It was
is Jesse Eisenberg and Kristen Stewart.
Oh, I heard
and,
that. I heard that was awful. Wasn't it? Was that
Yeah.
awful? Was it awful?
Yeah.
Oh,
Well,
at least it's
that's
in
what all the
DTSX.
critics said. Yeah.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's going to be one of those ones that any of us DTSX people are forced to buy because it's all that exists. Ex Machina was good, though, so at least you can get that. But yeah, no, there's a site called nextgenhometheater.com. And they are maintaining 3 lists very handily, which are all the Dolby Atmos Blu-rays, all the DTSX Blu-rays, and all the UHD Blu-rays that have been announced so far.
Very short list.
Yeah, it is. They're all Fox titles so far. Next Gen Home Theater over there. Now, that is only North American releases that they are charting at that website. So over on the Blu-ray.com forum, so forum.blu-ray.com, there's a poster there who is maintaining threads in the forum listing all the Atmos and DTSX Blu-rays all over the world. So that is
So
very
if you want to watch
comprehensive.
people dance and sing, then you can get a bunch of stuff from India, because I know that that Oro 3E stuff.
There's been releases in Japan and Germany that haven't come out in North America. So
I'm sure. Yeah.
So we will have the links to all of those at avrant.com. Whenever we talk about links in that, that's where they show up, is on our website, avrant.com. So head over there. You'll have the links to those 2 places.
Next, it says, just him, or are most of the Atmos films a bit subtle as far as the ceiling speakers?
It's not just you.
No. Well, didn't you say that the Fury Road one was used?
Fury Road, John Wick.
I'd like to see John Wick again. I like
Hunger Games, something or other. One of the Hunger Games Mockingjay Part 1. There was one other title that had pretty good noticeable overhead effects that I'm forgetting off the top of my head. But yeah, no, you're not wrong. A lot of them are pretty subtle.
So he currently has a 16:9, 120-inch manual pull-down daylight screen, but would like to upgrade to an electric drop screen. And what would we recommend? Building into the ceiling is fine. As a reminder, the ceiling, the theater area is 14:13 with another 14:13 area behind. Oh yeah, this has to do with the dog door behind.
Yep, that's right.
But that second area is completely off limits for any home theater gear. The walls and ceiling are all white, and Carl feels his current BenQ W7500 only looks best in completely dark setting on the current screen. So does that mean he wants a screen with higher gain?
See, I mean, I'm inferring and reading between the lines, but he was kind of mentioning, like, you know, things have to be very dark in this room for it to really look good.
Oh, that's more of a screen. That's not so much your screen issue as it is your projector issue. I hate to break it to you there, buddy. You don't really want. I don't care. You don't want to fix that as much with your screen as you do with your projector. You want a brighter projector. That's what you want.
Yeah, but it's also having entirely white walls and ceiling, which means that any light that reflects off of the screen also reflects around the room and eventually goes back into the path of the light. I don't know what his ambient light situation is, you know, as far as windows or whatever during the day, light coming into the room, sunlight that is. So, you know, it's awfully hard for me to recommend anything that touts itself as an ambient light rejecting screen, because none of them look great to me.
Yeah.
Not only that, pretty much all of them introduce some kind of artifact when it is totally dark, where a white screen would look best, and then you have this gray or black or sparkly or whatever type of ambient light rejecting screen you have, and it introduces some kind of artifact. So it's tough to recommend. I like the Daylight high power fabric as a solution, but Daylight's electric roll down screens are not cheap.
No.
They're cheaper than Stewart film screen, but that's about the only thing they're cheaper than. Yeah, that's right. So
yeah, Stewart screens are crazy expensive.
Yeah. So, I mean, Elite screens, they are the go-to for affordable motorized screens, for sure. They have a wide selection of fabrics. They have ones that are acoustically transparent. Of course, they have white screens of various gains, and they do have gray screens. They don't really have a roll-down one that they tout as being ambient light rejecting, as in it has louvers or some type of coating on it to shed light that comes in from the side. They don't quite have that, but they do have gray ones or something like that. But Yeah, it's tough to say.
Just get something that's like a 1.3, and
Yeah,
anything more than that, and you're going to end up regretting it. In some, I think you'll end up regretting it in some way.
yeah.
Just get 1.3. I would not go higher than 1.3. You do whatever you want,
Now,
but
what falls?
1.3. What was that?
Well, I was going to say what falls in the middle between elite screens, electric roll down, which are the affordable choice, and going up to daylights with the high power fabric is Seymour
Right,
AV.
Seymour AV.
They fall in between price wise. Very nice screens. I like their tensioning system, which is something I should mention. With any roll down screen, I would highly recommend you get the tensioned version so that you don't get any waves or wrinkles in the screen. It's very nice to have a tension screen when it's rolling down. Seymour has introduced a quote unquote black ambient light rejecting screen. I have no idea how good it is. It is a layered type screen. So maybe they could send you a sample. That would be how I would start. Although it's awfully hard to tell what it really looks like from a small sample of fabric. But it's better than absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
So
See, I think that light rejecting screens are for times and installations where ambient light is always a problem.
right.
It is always a problem. So if ambient light is always going to be a problem, then you need a light rejecting screen,
Hmm.
and one of these funky things that are sparkle and everything.
Can you paint
But
your walls? That's the bigger question. Or cover them in fabric. Because if you
yes, I'm
can
sure that's
darken
going to
those,
happen.
if you can darken that wall and ceiling, that'll make a bigger difference.
Well, the wall at least. The ceiling, I wouldn't worry too much about, but because you're never going to get that ceiling dark. I mean, unless your
Sure,
wife.
you can.
You
Just paint it
can.
black.
It's physically possible. I am aware that paint will stick to ceilings. I'm saying that let's be reasonable here, Rob. The man can't put anything past that little half wall there.
Just cover
Clearly, he
your
is not in
whole.
charge of all the things that go on in the house.
Just cover your whole room in Fidelio black velvet. Come on, everyone will love it.
You're a terrible person. All right. Yes, elite screens. I agree. Seymour AV is always a good choice. He's not as cheap as he used to be, but I think he makes a quality product, and he's a good guy.
Mhm.
You call him. I don't know if he still has the same website, but I used to love his website because you go around and he'd have these pictures about like a picture of our warehouse or whatever, and it's just this big empty space. Like clearly the guy's like, dude, it's just me in my garage. That's what I'm doing right now. I mean, he's doing a lot more now, but it used to be a super. He also, who are we talking about? I lost track of what the guy's name is that we're talking to. Carl? Is that what it is? Carl.
Yes, Carl.
Carlos
One
wants
of
to
the
know
Carls.
what other podcasts we listen to.
Home theater podcast.
A home theater podcast. I don't listen to anything. I don't even listen to this
Oh, okay.
podcast. This is it. I don't. I used
See,
to.
I am the guy. I listen to our own podcast when it comes
How
out.
do
I
you
have a
have
listen to
time?
it. Yeah. Yeah.
Clearly, you need some more activities in your life.
Oh, that's not the case. No.
So, what podcasts? Because you have a stupidly long list of
I
podcasts
do.
that you listen to here.
I'll
All
throw
right,
them all
go
out
ahead.
there. All these links will be, just copy and pasted over at avrant.com. So that's the easy one. Some of these aren't really specifically home theater, but Home Theater Geeks, of course, from the Twit Network. That's great. That's Scott Wilkinson doing interviews with all kinds of people from the industry. Of course, the HDTV and Home Theater podcast with the HT guys, Ara and Braden. The AV Forums podcast of the UK. I enjoy listening to those guys, even though they're mostly entirely wrong about subwoofers, except for the one guy who has four, one in each corner, but the rest of them don't know what they're talking about. All
Love
of the
you guys. You're British and totally wrong.
all of the Digital Media Zone podcast, Entertainment 2.0, Home On, and The End User. I like all those podcasts over there. And then there's some that are like tangentially related to like AV Week from AV Nation, which of course Tom appears on from time to time. That's more the custom installation side of things.
Yeah, it is. I try to bring it
Yeah.
back to things other people would care about whenever I'm on that podcast.
But from week to week, it's
My
primarily.
favorite one was when they asked me what I thought of InfoCon happening. I'm like, I don't know what that is. He goes, really? He goes, yeah. He goes, it's a thing. It's a big conference for custom installers and stuff. I'm like,
Yep.
no. No
I also
idea.
listen to MVP. That's Ryan Block and Peter Rojas's show. They rarely talk about home theater, but they talk about tech, of course. And they're the guys who like founded the original Engadget way back when, and then
Oh,
went off
okay.
and did other things. They formed GDGT, which they kind of went, and then they went back in with AOL, and then they left again, and they do their own startups. But anyway, those two guys, I like listening to them. And then on the content side, I like listening to the DigiGods because they cover every single disc that is coming out every week. That's Wade Major and Mark Kaiser, fun guys, LA film critics. And a new one that I've picked up is Remotely Girly. That is Amber Dowling and some other people I don't remember. They're Canadian, they're women, they're all film and TV critics, and they talk about content that comes out every week. So,
Oh.
yeah.
And the We Watch Movies podcast, of course.
Of course.
Yeah. So they talk about digital cameras and megapixels. It's a lot about megapixels. That's what they're very on Austin Pod in that one. Yeah. Carl also sent us a link to a home theater review article, an open letter to Apple's Tim Cook regarding HD music, which basically was a let us buy high quality music. Why won't you let us buy high quality music?
Mm-hmm.
Let us buy high quality music.
Except a little misguided because they seem to be wanting quote unquote high resolution music, which is unnecessary.
I just want CD quality. Thank you very
Just
much.
CD
Can I just have CD quality?
Exactly.
You don't even have to
And-
really up res all that crap. This is what I don't want you to do. I
Right.
don't want you to take the crap that they've already uploaded to your site and just bump it up to 1644. I don't want that. What I want you to do is get the original CD one, CD file, and then convert it to AAC lossless or whatever it is,
Yep.
and then let me download it. That's what I want.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah, why does
not-
everything have to be lossy? Which I agree. Why does everything have to be 256 kilobit AAC lossy? You have ALAC, you have Apple lossless codec, which you could obviously use to give us CD quality. So yeah, I agree with that part. Give us CD quality. I also agree with why not have some 5.1 surround sound music or 3.1.
I think that was
like
in the
Gabe talked about
comments,
last week.
wasn't it? Because I agreed
No,
with
that was
that.
that was in the article.
Was in the article as
itself.
well. I
Yep,
agree with
the
that as well.
mention.
I'm like, why can't we? Yeah, hey,
Mhm.
I understand that them not offering that because most people who are downloading stuff are downloading it for their phones, their
Yeah.
headphones or whatever. So I kind of understand that, but it doesn't seem like it should be that big of a deal to have that. I mean, it's out there, it exists. Why can't you just?
Yeah, I
give
mean,
it to me?
Apple is assuming that you're using iTunes. Whether you are or not, you're obviously buying it through the iTunes store if you're buying
Yeah.
it from Apple. So they're assuming you're using iTunes. Right in iTunes, if you're syncing it to your phone or your iPod, it has that little checkbox that says down convert this to whatever you want. If it's about saving space on your device,
Right.
you only got a 16 gigabyte device, you can convert everything to
Everything-
128.
Everything on iTunes should be CD quality.
So yeah, why not just the download is automatically an Apple lossless file in CD quality, and then you can convert it automatically to whatever you want to store it on your device. So I agree with that, but I don't agree with we need 9624 because we don't.
We don't need that. Though if they gave us 9624, I'd be fine with that too.
Yeah,
I just
sure. Yeah,
if
whatever.
you're gonna give us that, then let's have a tiered system. You can have the
Yeah.
128 for a penny because that's what it's worth. You can get the CD quality for it's 99 cents, and you can get the 96 whatever for $250,000 because
That's
that's
right.
what those people should have to pay for their for being stupid. Jim over on
Oh.
Facebook has a Optima HD 25E. It's a 1080p 3D projector with active shutter glasses. He's happy
flicky.
with the image quality with the projector in eco mode and set to cinema mode for 2D viewing.
Okay.
However, when watching 3D, the image brightness drops due to the glasses. That's
It
because
sure does.
You only get half the thing and half the thing.
If you're lucky, more like 30% is all that gets through.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
He tries to bump up the brightness, but when he does that, the projector leaves cinema mode and goes into a custom user mode.
Mhm.
He wants to know if he could write down all the settings from the cinema mode and replicate them to the custom user mode, bumping the brightness and using that mode for 3D, or are there any hidden settings that are unique to the cinema mode that can't be replicated in the custom user mode? When you bumped up the brightness
Uh-huh.
and it went to a custom user mode, that's exactly what it did. It shouldn't have changed anything saying you're no longer in cinema mode. You're now in custom mode. It shouldn't have gone through and changed anything other than the brightness.
Well, it kind of sort of does
Shouldn't
because, well, it doesn't copy over the presets from whatever your mode you were in. to the user mode and then adjust only that one setting. It just says, unlike most displays where you can make adjustments within a preset mode, this one says if you want to adjust anything, you have to do it in the user.
So it kicks you out
mode.
to the user mode, and then
So it kicks you out to the user mode. Everything starts at defaults, and then you have to go from there. Now, there is a picture mode called 3D, which specifically says you can adjust the 3D mode and it will remember those settings separate from all the other picture modes. And when it senses a 3D signal, or you turn on the 2D to 3D conversion and you put it in 3D picture mode, it will retain the settings you made. So I would recommend, since it's clear that what he wants to change is things when he's watching 3D, is go ahead and use that 3D picture mode, because that will allow you, if you ever want to do your own calibration in the future for 2D mode, you'll still have the user picture mode available to do that. So that's how I would come at it, because that 3D mode exists and it lets you adjust things and it remembers it and automatically switches when it senses a 3D signal. So I would use that. As to how to use it, though, I would recommend not attempting to copy any other preset, because when you put on the 3D glasses, everything shifts. Right. It's not just the brightness, it shifts the colors, it shifts the gamma slightly, everything shifts. So I would recommend actually using a setup disc. In this case, it would be the Spears and Munsell HD Benchmark second edition is the current one, because that's the only setup disc that has dedicated 3D test patterns that will activate the 3D mode in whatever display you're using.
3D mode, activate.
So I would highly recommend getting yourself that setup disc and using that, going through it, because it gives you some instruction as you go through it, and using that to adjust the settings in that 3D picture mode, and you'll get a pretty darn good looking
That's
image.
weird. The Epson that I used to use, if you put it into cinema mode or whatever, and you went and adjusted the brightness, it just adjusted it, and then if you wanted to save that as a user mode, you could.
Yeah,
it's weird.
It is. Yeah, it's a quirk of this. It's a not hugely expensive one. It's under $1,000, I believe.
Yeah, that's probably why.
Yeah.
Diego, what? Go on.
I just wanted to say, like, in regards to that, like my Sharp television, my 70-inch 3D TV, when it senses a 3D signal, of course, it goes into 3D mode and forgets everything you ever did with every other setup. It's like, oh, it's all brand new. It's 3D.
Oh, it's 3D. It's so amazing. I forgot.
You didn't want accurate colors or good black levels. It's 3D now.
Oh, it's 3D. I'm so excited right now. I can't believe it's 3D. That's what it says. It's like it's making that girl noise. Whatever that noise is they make when they see each other. Right? But with 3D. So you can hear it all around you. Just sucking all around you and giving you a headache. So it's just like 3D. All right, Diego. Diego's father needs headphones to use for nighttime TV watching, wired or wireless, and or closed or open back or fine. And his price range was undefined. So apparently
tell
his
us
father
everything.
Yes, you're gonna need to tell us how much the things are. Now, I don't have really any wireless recommendations. I think I looked some up a while back, but I can't remember what they were. So obviously I'm using right now the Oppo PM3s. Those are $400. Those are great, fantastic headphones.
Those are wired and closed back.
And they have a ridiculously long cord. So you can clearly get it to wherever you need it to go. I mean, it's ridiculous. I have it rolled up right here and it's like it's on the floor. It's everywhere. You can't get away from the stupid cord.
But they are $400. So
they are $400. They are a little bit pricey. So that would be my expensive recommendation.
Sure.
My inexpensive recommendation.
Audio Technicas.
Yeah, I'd probably have to go with I really wish I could say Denon's, but they don't sell those anymore.
Nah,
the Audio ATH M50s.
Yeah.
I think there's a curly. I don't know if they still do this. There was a curly version and then a straight version. The straight version was the S, and that was just the cord. You want the straight version because the curly version it'll pull your receiver out of the wall or whatever. So, but those are. I think that the MSRP is like $199 or something.
Yeah, I find them
they're
for
never
170 most places.
Yeah, I think I got mine for 150 or 140. I think I've seen them as low as 125 from time.
Oh yeah, you can. They go on sale places because they're fairly ubiquitous. They're around. If you go into pretty much any shop that sells headphones and ask for the Audio Technica M50s, they'll know what you're talking about. So
yeah. Very good headphones. One of my favorites. In fact, everybody that's used them loves them.
Hmm.
So that I know. In fact, I lent them to my friend, and I got to go over to his house and visit him the other day, and he's clearly not done with them yet because he gave me the stink eye when I picked these up. I went, he goes, put down, put down. It's fine. They're fine right there.
I would certainly say if you're okay with having a wire, and you're okay with an open back, which doesn't seem like the greatest for watching in bed and not bothering anyone else, but
I don't understand.
I will say, like when I'm using them, I'm talking about the Sennheiser HD598s, which sell for they're like MSRP is like $250, but they sell everywhere for like 150. So effectively, that's the price. They are ugly as sin, but they sound really, really good. They are super comfortable. The cord is about 10 feet long, so should hopefully be long enough to make it over to your TV. And yeah, if you're listening at like a reasonable level, it's not as though they're like loud outside of them, but you can hear some sound coming through because they're open back. There are the less expensive HD558s that go for about $110 most places. Very similar design, quite similar sound quality, not as ugly, but not quite as comfortable or durable because they like everything is kind of cheap foam. Like the headband and the ear cups are kind of cheap foam on the 558s, whereas the 598s actually have like fake leather foamy type thing, so they last a bit longer.
I should mention that the Oppo PM3s and the Audio Technica ATH M50s, neither one of them started off super comfortable. They're they clamp pretty tight.
Physical break-in.
Yeah, it's a physical break-in sort of thing. In fact, the PM3s, I have small ears, and they're still sort of on ear. I can mostly get them around my ear, but I have pretty small ears. So they are considered on ears, which is not going to be as comfortable, even though they're going to sound good. So if you want to spend the extra $300 and get the PM2s, those are uber comfortable. Those are really, really comfortable. Those
open backs, though.
And they're open backs, and they're ridiculously comfortable.
Yeah.
Anyways, Audio Technicas are over ear,
right?
Though I mean, but they are, again, they're not huge. So if you have really big ears, there may be a little bit of pinching here. Yeah. They started off with a pretty high clamp factor, but they loosened up over time.
Now, I would be remiss if I did not mention the Sony MDR 7506. They are $80 most places, so they're the least expensive ones. They're closed back, and they are literally the headphone you will find in like every recording studio in the world. Like, even if that's not the one they use all the time, they'll have a pair of them, or probably multiple pairs of them. So whenever you see a behind the scenes of like voice actors or recording artists or anything, they'll probably be wearing those Sonys, the MDR 7506s. They're not expensive. They're like very linear, good sounding, sealed. So those certainly fit the bill. And then on the wireless side, if you do want to use wireless, there's really only one brand to go to, which is Sennheiser. If you look at every single list anywhere about half decent wireless headphones, it'll be the Sennheisers. You'll probably be looking at the RS. Currently is the 175. You'll find lots of reviews for the 170s that the 175s just replaced. They're $250 to $280, $300 range headphones, so they're not inexpensive. But as far as actually getting a wireless signal that won't sound horrible, these are like the only game in town. So if you want wireless, you'll spend a little bit.
I think I remember the last time somebody asked me for a recommendation on wireless headphones. That's what I came up with was Sennheiser something or other. Yeah.
Yep.
And there was one other like gaming headset that I think I found.
The Astro gaming ones. Yeah.
That was the only ones I could find that were wireless.
Yeah.
All right, Kyle. Kyle bought Rob's Denon AVR X5200. Yay! And now he's having a big problem.
Yeah.
Rob sold you 11?
It wasn't when I had it.
I was going to say, weren't you using that?
I used it almost every day from the time I had it. It was working fine. Kyle has used it. It's not like he never used it. He used it for the past few months.
So Kyle's been using it sporadically the past few months, but a few days ago, he went to power it on. It clicked like it was trying to turn on. The front panel display lit up, but then it shut off and tried to turn back on again over and over and over.
Yeah.
That's a fun thing. Did it catch fire? Because that's the next thing that usually happens after that. He had it plugged into a Monster Power Center. Well, there's your problem right there. Noel Lee found out how all the stuff that Rob's been saying about him, and he's burning up all of Rob's stuff. There's your problem right there. The revenge of the Noel, the revenge of the head monster. That's what this is. Anyways, he had it plugged into a Monster Power Center. He reset that. He also tried plugging in the X5200W directly into the wall outlet, but the problem persists. Any ideas? You got a short someplace in that bad boy is what it sounds like to me.
It sure sounds like it. Yeah.
Are you sure nobody dropped
that.
any water on it or anything?
Or that it's been sitting in a dusty environment? Because actually, a large amount of dust can cause a short in the power supply. Yeah. It's not impossible. Like. It does.
I mean, have you tried vacuuming it? I would vacuum.
Yeah, I mean, the thing I would do here, as far as a troubleshooting before, I mean, it wouldn't hurt to just call Denon anyway. But the troubleshooting things I would try is unplug everything. Don't have anything connected to the Denon at all. Take it to another room, because stranger things have happened than one particular outlet in your house actually having like a loose plug or something frayed with the wire inside the wall. Somebody put a nail through the wire of the wall, whatever it is. Just take it to another room, plug it directly into a wall outlet somewhere else, see if it turns on. If it does not, try doing a factory reset. You do that by first plugging it into the wall and leaving it in standby. You hold down two buttons, which it tells you which two buttons in the manual. In the 5200's case, it's the back and info buttons, but that won't be the case for every receiver out there. But in this particular case, you hold those two down and press the power button on the front panel. If the words initializing come up, that's a good thing. That means you've reset the processor, hopefully, because these AV receivers are essentially computers. They can occasionally glitch. So I have solved a problem here or there by doing a factory reset where, for whatever reason, some setting got stuck, or it got stuck during a firmware update, just didn't complete the firmware update, things like that. So sometimes doing a factory reset will help. If none of that, yeah, the vacuum and some compressed air, blow the thing out, make sure it's not full of dust. After that, it's definitely time to call Denon, because it could be a power supply problem. It very well could be. It could be a fuse. They do have fuses inside.
Could be. They should be able to tell you something.
I really hope it's not something drastic. I feel awful about this. It feels terrible.
It happened to me. That's why I give all my stuff away. I don't sell anything because...
Oh, but this was like... it was so new.
I know.
And it's not like Kyle is like accusing me, like he has used it. It's not like it wasn't functional when it arrived or something like that. Right. So
it wasn't 11.
Yeah. It
sucks. It is now 11 though.
It could be.
That's terrible. Kyle, we feel for you in particular. You've made a Canadian very uncomfortable, which is worth the price of admission as far as I'm concerned. Listening to him squirm, just beautiful. It's a beautiful thing. David over on Facebook wants to know if we've heard of Chane speakers, Chane.
Yeah, we have.
Very inexpensive for having ribbon tweeters. They are worth $400 a pair?
No, they're not.
I would guess they wouldn't be. I've only seen 2 reviews of them. One was from somebody who was clearly insane because of all the breaking of the end of the tweeters and the things. And the other one, it was a CNET. I think it was on CNET. Mm-hmm. Seemed all right. The review seemed all right.
Well, that's Steve Guttenberg. That guy is nuts.
Yeah, was that who it was?
It is.
He did say that he didn't have any problems with it being off axis. Yeah, the off axis seemed okay. I'm not sure that he actually tested that. They asked him in the comments and that sort of thing. But Swan, the other 2 things that are on that website are some music player I've never heard of, and Swan speakers. I've met the guy from Swan before, and he's a nice enough guy. But it's clear he's just getting stuff from other people and then selling it.
Swan has been around like forever, and they have bounced around from like every direct site out there.
They've done all this stuff. In fact, when the Chane speaker review it had nothing to do with Chane speakers. They were under somebody else at that point. So
Chane as a brand used to be Chase Home Theater.
Oh yeah.
Chase Home Theater used to be from a guy who started on AVS Forum.
That guy
who did this like huge subwoofer shootout that became like the Bible for people who knew no better. So like everybody kept referring to this subwoofer shootout, and he's like, I'm gonna go start my own company. And then he was like, Barack Obama just got voted in, I give up. So it was a very weird set of events that happened over at Chase. Basically nothing he ever promised got delivered, because he's like, I all these prices will work if the government would just stop taxing me. I'm like, well, that's not really how small businesses work. So he's like, he closed up shop and then turned it into Chane, and then brought in this stuff, which is somebody else's product that they're selling under this name. And I'm fairly sure that in a year or two, we will have Chafe Home Theater or Chag Home Theater, Chaz. It'll be something else with CHAX letter E, because that seems to be the way that this company goes. Yeah, don't buy this.
We haven't heard them, but
I don't care. Don't buy them. You'll be lucky if you get them.
There you go. Pieter, who last week we call him Pieter or something like that, because he's got it, but he says it's just pronounced Peter. Anyways, yeah, and he didn't know my Sophie, which was disappointing. He's a Belgium guy.
Yeah, that's right.
Be sure you should ask around. How many Sophies can there be? Anyways, he sent us a picture of his soon-to-be renovated house, which, by the way, would make a great setting for a horror movie. It is, it is a hot mess in there. It's that just like it's that I don't know if that's a doorway or somebody knocked something down to begin with, and then there's a there's dirt floors and brick piles and rubble in places. Anyways, the place is going to be great when it gets ready. You can really see that it's got good bones.
That is the place under renovation, to be sure. That is gutted. As much as a place can be gutted, that is
usually
gutted.
When you've got a place, it still has a floor. This place doesn't have a floor. I don't understand how it doesn't have a floor. Like, what was it before this? Before it hit the house it was going to be, what was it? Because
it looks like there's a little piece of concrete left that's been jackhammered around.
Why would you do that? I don't care. Anyways, okay, so in the seating in his diagram, about 10 feet away, but maybe moved depending on how the space feels when built. The diagram is also misleading in that the center speaker and the whole console will be about 40 to 50 centimeters off the ground, and the placement of the front, left, and right speakers were to accommodate the drop-down screen in between. He likes to sit somewhere somewhat close to the screen in theater, so a 40 to 45-degree angle is what he would like. He's always wanted a projector, but will take our remarks against it being necessary into account. At any rate, since he will be doing most of the build himself, we'll see you in 2 years, dude. The project will take about a year to a year and a half. I'm gonna hold you to that. A year from now, I want to see a picture of progress. What are we on? Where's October 26th? October 26th of next year, I want to see that you at least have a floor. He can wait to see how the projector market is at that time. Number A, or letter A. We mentioned putting heavy drapes over the sliding glass door on the right wall. What sort of material should we be looking for? Just pure mass or the amount of air that can pass through them? Mass, thickness. You need, yes, you need it to be thick and so that air can't pass through, basically. You want it to be vibrating the molecules of the drape rather than passing through the drape and bouncing off the wall, then passing back through. Okay.
Yeah, mass is more important here because, for example, there are some fabrics that are very light that don't allow air to pass through them very easily. Those will not act as good absorbers.
Yeah, vinyl.
Yeah, exactly. So you do want mass. You're looking for something that will force the moving air to hit some sort of barrier, transfer from the air to a very different material, which is where, waves do not like to do that. They will lose energy as they come across that barrier. So yeah, you're looking for mass, which will coincidentally probably not be easy to blow air through.
Yes. And could the same drapes work as a sort of temporary barrier over the big opening to the dining room and kitchen on the left? Yeah, it could. I mean, it sounds going to go back there and get sucked up into the space anyways, and never to be seen from again. So
it won't do a heck of a lot for the bass.
No, it's not going to absorb bass. It's just going to.
No. But it can certainly muffle some of the higher frequency sounds.
Yeah,
it can muffle it a bit.
It says the sliding glass door on the right do not extend all the way to the back corner of the room. Would mounting his surround speakers to the small section of the side wall, or even right at in this rear corners be an improvement over the positions on the back wall that you had in this mock-up diagram. Putting them above the sliding glass door is not an option. Yeah, I'd put them just to the right of the door.
Yep.
And then match it on the other side. So you
Yep.
want as close to that within that what is it, 45-degree thingy, behind you. Is it 45? It's something less than that. 26 degrees.
It's supposed to be 110. If you're only doing
I'm
5.1,
saying
maybe
from the side back. Is it like
from the 90-degree back, then 20 to 35 degrees.
There you go. You want as close to that as possible.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, using that small section of right side wall, and then mirroring that on the left side wall, mounting them, and as we mentioned, getting them up a little bit higher. 2 to 3 feet. The tweeters 2 to 3 feet above your seated ear height. Absolutely, that's where I would try to get your surround speakers, rather than on the back wall where surround back speakers would normally go.
And since affordable HDR projectors might take a couple of years to arrive, what are our thoughts on buying? And not just might, they will. That is not a might. It might. If you mean might, like in a couple of years they might be here, then
15 grand right now is the starting point. Yeah. And those don't even have the expanded color. They just have HDR compatibility.
I'm thinking it's going to be what I consider to be affordable. It's probably 5 years away. What are our thoughts on buying a second-hand or refurbished cheaper projector models as a stopgap? Frankly, I think last week taught us that buying a refurb sometimes just gets you a bulb that's about to blow. And then you end up having to dump a couple extra bucks, $100 into it anyways on a new bulb. I would be more inclined to buy something that was either now refurb is different than secondhand.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're getting a refurb unit from a reputable place, then that's okay. I'm perfectly fine with that. Secondhand, I'm less okay with because people are awful.
Yeah, if it's a refurb from like Visual Apex or
like they might sell you a receiver and then have it like start doing weird stuff like clicking on and off and not when after like just a couple of months. That happens. People do that to people. I can't believe it.
It does feel awful. I've sold lots of stuff. I've never had problems. I treat my stuff so well.
I know you do, Rob. I'm sorry. Everybody can send all your hate mail to me. Being mean to Rob. That's just a little bit too easy. So I think I'm showing remarkable restraint because if we were in person, this would have never stopped. It would have just been a non-stop stream of me mentioning it over and over.
Well, anyway. Since Peter mentioned that he's probably going to be sitting 10 feet away and he would like a large 40 to 45 degree field of view, you're going to be wanting like a 100 to a 110 inch screen. So my suggestion last week of maybe getting like an 80-inch HDR flat panel, because those fall into the same price range as current HDR projectors, that doesn't really, it's not going to get you to that field of view unless you move your seat considerably closer. So given that you want like a 110-inch screen, absolutely get a projector. I mean, it's not like you can't enjoy, we've all been enjoying projectors it's not until this HDR thing even came out that we even knew there might be something better coming down the pike. It's not like you get yourself a JVC or an Epson or that Panasonic AE8000, which is very affordable these days. Yeah. Like you get one of those, it's gonna look great. You got I'm sure you have a collection of Blu-rays. They're not HDR. They're gonna look fantastic.
Okay, I'm getting confused between him and the other guy. This is the one where he's facing the long wall and there's a sliding glass door on his right and like a bunch of so he's got
dining room and kitchen to the left.
Okay, I remember now. All right. I was getting confused. Okay, so I was thinking he was going to need to drop these down in front of his speakers because it was a thin space, but he's not the thin space guy.
No,
he's
got plenty of space on that front wall,
so that's good. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I would definitely check out that Panasonic. Although if you want to go even less expensive than that, like really as a stopgap, then of course there is like that BenQ, the W1075. That's or HT 1075, I guess is the proper model name.
The wonderful thing about projectors too, and it's you don't really get this with TVs, is they don't really care what signal you send it, and they usually don't even care most of the time what power you send it, because they're kind of they have universal power supplies and everything else.
A lot of them do, yeah.
Yeah, and which is nice with the TVs. So they're locked into an NTSC or PAL or whatever, and all that. With the projectors, they're a lot more universal. So you've got so many more options that are out there. Bobby recently got into the projector world and thinks it's amazing, but it didn't occur to him that he needed a UPS backup until we mentioned it. Oh, wow. Don't turn that thing on again during the lightning storm. After doing some digging, he's come across conflicting information. Some people say you need a battery backup that outputs 2 times or 3 times the amount of watts that your projector consumes, and it has to be a pure sine wave and not a step approximate sine wave. And he's lost. So the APC UPS 550 VA outputs 330 watts, and this BenQ W1070 requires only 220 in eco mode. Since the projector will only be the only device plugged into the UPS, is this enough? He doesn't want to overspend on something with more power than he needs. I don't think I've ever thought I need to match my projector power with my whatever. I just need it to stay on for like 30 seconds, 60 seconds. It doesn't have to. I'm not. It's like that. Isn't that how much it consumes in like an hour or something? I mean, it's not going to be on that long.
Yeah, and that's like peak output.
Exactly.
Those figures. Yeah, no.
I think you're over.
The information that was given there about it needing however many watts and having to be a pure sine wave, that's not true. At least certainly hasn't been the case in anything I've used, because I've never had a UPS that had pure sine wave output, which some of them do tout, including APC. Their S series touts pure sine wave output. Everything else, their J series, which are the ones that I use, they say they're a stepped approximation of sine wave. Never had a problem with anything.
My problem is the damn thing beeps like crazy whenever the power goes out.
There's that. It lets you know. It lets you know the power is out.
It drives me absolutely bonkers.
Makes that nice buzzing sound too. It's like, yeah, you're on battery, all right.
Yeah.
But it gives you enough time to power down and let it cool down properly and not explode your bulb. So that is a very nice thing. Yeah. So if you go to the actual AV section of APC, any of the products there that a battery backup will absolutely work just fine with a projector, television, anything.
Don't look at the watts. Don't look at any of that nonsense.
Yeah. However, the least expensive one is the J25, and it's like over $200, and it's probably overkill for a single device. I have used their back UPS 750, so that's like 2 models above the 550 that he mentioned. I've used that unit. It's like $85, and I've had no problems with that. So I don't feel at all bad about recommending a back UPS. I can tell you the 750 is fine. The 750 is rated to output more watts. It has a larger battery than the 550. I think the 550 would probably be fine, but
yeah, I don't think you have to worry about it. These things are not going to be on for hours. You're not going to sit there and continue to watch nothing, because the only thing that will have power is the projector. So you'll see the menu, I guess. Those are your options.
They are a truly digital display. The W1070 being a DLP, it is a truly digital display. So all this worry about pure sine wave with analog components or tubes, because that's where it comes into play, is with tubes. Yeah, really not a problem with a stepped approximation of a sine wave.
Don't worry about it, dude. All right, I think we do 2 more questions before we finish, because I want to get. I think we do.
Do you want to get to Will? Because Will has.
So Will, who we're now calling Bill the Stumper, I guess. I don't know if that's the thing that's happening. Anyways, after some further, this is the guy with the Roku with the the possessed Roku box and Roku stick or something.
No, the stick was fine.
It was a Roku and something else.
Roku 3 and an Apple TV.
An Apple TV, right? I think
Netflix and HBO Go and Daredevil and Base. And
whatever. After some further testing, it's determined that the weird sub problem occurs even when playing audio files from a USB flash drive on the Roku 3, but playing audio check tones from his iPhone directly into the receiver worked fine.
Yeah. Yeah, so I did ask. He played Blu-rays from his Blu-ray player straight into his Integra AV receiver, played them at like full reference volume, no problems. So that means it's not the receiver, It's not the subwoofers themselves. And since this Roku 3 gave bass problems playing from a USB flash drive, it's the Roku 3.
It's the
There's
Roku.
something wrong with the output there.
Anyways, he's checked the software updates on both devices, the Roku 3 and the Apple TV, and they're both up to date. He also likes my idea of rerunning Odyssey, but has not had time to try it.
That's
because it's
not going to
difficult
fix this problem.
to find time with a silent to find a silent house with 2 young kids, which I understand.
Odyssey has nothing to do with this problem.
This is clearly your Roku is possessed by
Yeah.
the devil, and you should throw holy water on it and get a young priest and an old priest.
He didn't even buy it from me.
I know.
So how did this happen?
Well, if it bought it from you, it wouldn't work at all. If the Roku 3 itself is
I hope Kyle gets back to me.
oh, he's gonna get back to you, buddy.
I
Don't
know.
worry.
I emailed him a few times. I like gave him like every suggestion I could think of. I'm like, oh.
Right, Rob hasn't slept in days. If the Roku 3 itself is at fault, should he hold out until the Roku 4 comes out, or replace it with the Roku 3 or current generation Amazon Fire TV? Why do you need all these devices? That's what I want to know.
He likes streaming. You don't have to wait for the Roku 4. You can buy it right now.
Well, yeah. Anyways, the next generation Fire TV, HDR, and 4K won't be a concern for at least 2 years. Also, never mind the Apple TV. It lives in the guest room and doesn't get much use. He only moved it to the main system for testing the problem.
Which it also had, which is weird.
Let's ignore that. We're going to pretend that didn't happen. And
Yeah.
we're just going to put the Apple TV back where it belongs. What's his name? Everybody's talking about that Nvidia Shield thing. You get one of those.
Yeah.
I still understand why you need all these things, but maybe you do. Maybe you want something. The Nvidia Shield is pretty expensive, though. It's like $200.
$200. Yeah. The reason I mentioned that one is because it can do 4K, which isn't William's case, but it can do it. It also is the only one that might get an upgrade to HDR. So there was the HD Guru review of the new Roku 4. They're like, yeah, it's never getting HDR. If HDR comes about in Roku, there'll be a Roku 5 to take care of that. They're not going to be adding it. So the Amazon Fire TV is not going to have it. Of course, the Apple TV is not, because the Apple TV doesn't even do 4K. So if you're thinking you might want HDR with a future device, the Nvidia Shield is like the only one that might, and we can't even guarantee that it will. However, when it comes to the services available, he mentioned he uses quite a few, including Voodoo and MGO, which the thing about the Shield is that it is an Android device. So for any apps that are not available in its own store, you can still sideload apps.
Right.
So people have done that with lots of things, including Amazon, because it doesn't have the Amazon services built into their own regular store, but you can sideload them. It works on Android devices. So it's very flexible that way, although not necessarily the most user-friendly.
No.
The Roku has the largest selection of apps, bar none. So in that way, also the Roku 4 is the only device that currently does Voodoo 4K streaming.
It's just still something he
first
doesn't
one
need.
that
It doesn't make any difference.
It doesn't, but it has Voodoo.
Whatever. So I just want to make sure that we've done all this.
Yeah.
So, he's gone and he's plugged it into different inputs, right?
Yeah.
And he switched the HDMI cables to different cables.
Yeah.
And he's checked the settings on inside the box and on his receiver that there's not some sort of weird bass boost going on.
Yeah.
All right. The thing's possessed by the devil, and you should burn it.
It's faulty. It's got a faulty HDMI output.
Something. All right.
I mean, the things are made for pennies. So having one faulty unit out of
Bad
however
tolerances
many
is
million.
what we're talking about.
It
right?
could be.
Bad tolerances.
Yeah. Honestly, you might just want to get another Roku 3
That's probably what I would do.
because it pretty much serves your purposes.
Does everything
It's
you want it to
cheap.
do. That's what I would do. Kevin on Twitter asks if a weighted SPL meter would work for level matching subwoofers. He tried one, and he basically had to max out the volume dial on his subwoofer before the A-weighted SPL meter got to 72 dB. That is because you are not supposed to do that. Okay? You are not supposed to use A weights. And I actually looked this up because I wanted to see. And there is a pretty graph that shows A, B, and C weighting curves. And the A weighting curves like rolls off everything below
about 1,000
1 kilohertz. Everything below
about
1,000
1,000 hertz it rolls off.
It rolls all that off, like way off. Like C weighting is nice and flat throughout the entire bass range, most of the bass range and mid range.
Yeah,
It
down
starts
to
to
about 80. It starts to roll off below 80, but
yeah, a little bit, yeah, but not nearly like this other one. We're talking
yeah.
30 dB down.
Yeah.
So at 80 hertz from where the reference level should be. So yeah,
Right.
it's not
Yeah, so
surprising.
like in other words, if you were actually playing, let's say 75 dB at, like low bass pink noise, so you're playing like a 60 hertz tone that is 75 dB, the A weighting scale is going to be reading like 40 dB. That's going to be the readout on your A weighted SPL meter. It doesn't mean that that's real. It means that it's A weighted and it is rolling off everything below 1 kilohertz. So that is why you always want to set your SPL meter to C weighting and use that. That will give you a much closer reading. What's
So
actually
the
happening?
A weighting, according to this website I'm looking at, follows the frequency sensitivity of the human ear at low levels.
That's right.
So which means that you're not at low levels, you're not very sensitive to bass. So
We sure
therefore it rolls it all off. Whereas C weighting follows the human sensitivity of the human ear at very high noise levels,
Right.
where your ear is much more sensitive to bass.
Mhm.
So
yeah. So in other words, A weighting is pretty good at telling you if someone's talking. It's good in like the human voice range of frequencies and not much else, because that's where our hearing is by far the most sensitive.
yep.
So yeah, don't use A weighting.
No,
Not
no
gonna
bueno.
not gonna do it.
All right. So Antonio.
Probably Antonio.
That's what we think.
I mean, it's spelled with a TH. But
Jonathan and Tim are going to have to wait until next week. We've answered all the rest of the questions. If you want to get your question answered on our podcast, just email us at Tom at AVRant, Rob at AVRant, question at AVRant,
mm-hmm.
or the website www.avrant.com, where you can, like our listeners of the week, scrolling up, way up, Tim, Peter, Joseph, and Troy, you can click on our Buy Us a Cup of Coffee link and leave us a PayPal donation, which is great. Or if you want to support the podcast in other ways, like Jefferson did by telling Best Buy and Marantz that he bought it because of us, or Scott by letting Golden Ear know that he bought because of us, just let us know. We will list you as our listener of the week. You can go to facebook.com/AVRantPodcast. You can tweet us at First Reflect for Rob, at AVRant_Tom for me, and at Austin Pond for Austin, our producer, who is not here today, but will be back sooner rather than later, I hope. He also has his own podcast where he troubleshoots people who have bought from other people and had their stuff not work. He's actually an advocate.
A lot of that going around.
Yeah, his podcast is called We Watch Movies, but it is an advocate program for people who have been short shrifted by unsavory Canadian types.
Did want to mention we got a couple of emails today from folks, so if you didn't hear your name in the list but you emailed us today, not to worry. It will be coming up next week. I hope Kyle's one of the people who writes back to me. God, I want that fixed so it's off my conscience.
I do want to thank again Ash for his work on the podcast.
Yes, thank you, Ash.
That's really great. And for AV Rant, I'm Tom Antry.
And I'm Rob H. Now go out and listen to something.
After partying a few, guys.